Cowpole, bonjour. Bonjour. How are you, mate? Can you hear me all right? Let me know. I had to restart this stream because the notifications didn't get sent out. And I had 2 people in there. Apologies to those lads, because I had to cut it off. All right. That's not because I didn't like talking to you. It's just that, well, you know. Let's see how long it takes to fill up now. So, Cowpole, did you get a notification for this, mate? Did you get a notification? Let me know. Because a lot of people didn't get them, apparently. So no one came in. And I was all lonely. I was just by myself talking to a fucking brick wall again. Apart from my 2 best mates now. Apart from my 2 best mates. Alright, so it's, yeah, okay. That's better. It's filling up a little bit. What disaster. I thought I'd been abandoned. Alright, we're going to get into some computer chat tonight. Computer chat. Cowpole's got my bell clicked. He clicked me right on the bell. Yeah. He did it from afar, but I still felt it. We're getting into computer nerd chat tonight. We're going to talk about computing, my PC build, all the things that have gone wrong with it, all the things that have gone so ruddy right with it. Yeah. We're going to talk about how I nailed it all together. Dale, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a nice European man clicking you right on the end of your bell. Nothing wrong with that, mate. Not in this day and age, anyway. Not in this cancel culture. I dare anyone to try and cancel me. Go on. Yeah, so we're going to get to some PC chat. We're going to go back through the mists of time, the mists of circuitry. We're going to talk about my first computer. We're talking about your bloody first computer, all the first computers, and all the computers that have come since that now mean nothing to us. All right, because really it's only the first one and the one that you've got now that really you remember. Yeah. Computers we're still talking about. Yeah. All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to slag off things, and we're going to praise things where credit's due. All right. That's what we're going to do. We've got 6 watching now. We'll wait till it fills up a little bit as usual, and then we're going to get into it. I've even went on Google Images and downloaded some images to put up on the screen so you lot can go, oh, I remember that. And as I was saying in the previous chat before I closed it off because I was just annoyed that there were hardly any people watching it. Basically, AMD Athlon 64. Well, we're going to get into that. Okay, right. So Cowpole's just bloody. He's jumped the gun. So let's just do this. Everyone in the chat, post what your first computer was. All right. Post what your first computer was, and then how great it was, and how shit it was. All right. Let me know. Post your first computer. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about how it's amazing, right, that the size of memory, like the RAM you would put in your computer, was way smaller back in the day. Way smaller back in the day compared to what you get now. Isn't it amazing? Way fucking smaller. But yet your computer did essentially the same tasks, did the same thing. Really did the same thing. It's just they do it nowadays with a higher resolution, and they do it with a bit more speed. And as I said in the previous video as well, so I'm repeating my own gags here like a shit stand-up comedian. It works on a very predictable linear curve, but people still find it fucking hilarious, don't they? All right, there we go. Oh, XOO cycle OOX. Hey mate, IBM 486. All right, so your first computers were PCs. All right, okay. So post your first computers, yeah. And a computer could be anything. A computer could be a calculator. All right. A computer could be a Tamagotchi. All right. Yeah, Dale. Nowadays, a single app like Slack or Discord uses way more RAM than a computer did from 20 years ago that they had in total. Yeah. We'll wait till this fills up a little bit, and then we're going to go through the dark history of my computing life, all that sort of thing. My first dalliances with the internet, my greatest moments on the internet, my greatest bannings, maybe. We'll talk about my latest rig. We're going to talk about how I chose it, why I chose it, how fucking long I took to decide on it. That's the problem today, innit? That is the problem. It just takes too fucking long to decide what bits you want for your computer. There's too much choice. There's too much choice nowadays. I reckon everything should just be state assigned. We should get a really strong leader who knows everything about everything, and then get him to choose what stuff we have. And then there'd be no more fucking worrying about it. We'd have way more time on our hands just to get on with using the bloody tools until they failed and we get a new one. LCD Donkey Kong Jr. I played that on a school bus once. I played that on the Donkey Kong I played on a school bus. Yeah. Cowpole, you got into old rigs like the Commodore 64 way later, just for yeah. All right, I know what you mean. There is an entire retro scene, isn't there, about computers and stuff nowadays, where people buying old shit and like making emulators and all that fucking shit. I got my own opinion about emulators. Like the memory of it is better than the reality of it generally. I tried to play Turrican 2 the other day. Shit. Well, how do you? That control system is stupid. It seemed to make so much sense back in the day. Hold down the thing, and that starts your power, your little, whatever you call it, flamethrower, laser thrower. And then you have to, instead of pressing forward and backwards to make it go over it like that, you have to press up and down, because if you press forward and backwards, you move, right? It's really stupid control system. Anyway, first computer was a Game Boy. Yeah. Game Boy used to run on batteries, didn't it? That seems fucking nuts. What a waste. I wonder if they're how much landfill they're responsible for. The cunts at Nintendo. Yeah. Sorry, Nintendo. All right, we've got 9 people watching. When we get to 10 people, I'm gonna get down my stupid history of computing. Yeah. And we're gonna talk about my rig. We're gonna talk about this whole setup here that allows this magic to be broadcast out to the world. Which really I could probably do on a phone, but I'm better than that. I am better than that. Better than everything. All right. Okay, so yeah, all right then. So here goes then. We're going to talk about computing. Everyone's uncle works at Nintendo, mate. Nintendo's the kind of the uncle of computer companies, isn't it? Yeah, well old as well. All right then. So here we go then. Here is my computing history. My first computer, and when I say my, I mean none of these were. I didn't buy a computer until I was 18. All right. So when I say my computer, my dad bought them, and then I just assumed it was mine because that's how a stupid child's mind works. Yeah. So anyway, the first computer that I had, let's say the first computer I had contact with was a Commodore 64, right? And it had a tape deck, and it also had a 3.25, is it? Floppy disk drive. But I was very young when that was around. I was about 6 when that was around, so I didn't know much how to use it. I managed to get a game running once, and that used to be kept on the landing of the house I lived in, next to a Casio keyboard that I used to play around on, playing the preset drum patterns and then trying to play along with them. That was quite funny. I didn't really understand that Commodore 64. I was a bit too young for that then, but that did introduce me to the concept of things on the screen moving around, and if you type something in, then you can make that thing move. That fucking blew my mind. Then there was at school there was this BBC computer, which we got taught how to program this little turtle thing that just moved around in a pattern, and you could program loads of things. You could program a big script, and you could make it draw a knob and stuff, which was brilliant. So I did that. But my first, you know where this is going, lads. My first actual computer that I'd say like I sort of cybernetically morphed with on an emotional level was the Commodore Amiga 500 motherfucker. Yeah. And I'm going to show you on the screen exactly which one I had. That, mate, I had that. Let's just go through the majesty of this here. I had this exact pack as well. So in 1988 or 89, I can't quite remember. 1989, I reckon. And it was October 89 because I still got the magazine. My dad bought an Amiga format magazine, and it was Amiga format issue 5. So this magazine had only just come out recently, right? He was toying between the idea of getting an Atari and an Amiga. Even though I was 9 or 10 years old, I think my dad didn't have anyone else in the world to talk to about this sort of thing, and there was no internet around then, and he didn't have any mates that were into this. Well, yeah, maybe he had one, but you know what I mean? But no one used to be chatting online. So he would literally just talk to me like I was his 40-year-old mate who also was considering buying one of these computers, and just sort of go, well, which one do you reckon we should buy, Owen? Because like, oh, let me give me a name out there. Which one should we buy there? Should we get? I'm thinking about getting the Atari, but the problem with the Atari is it just seems like, from what I've heard, there's less games on it and stuff, and it seems like I'm not sure which one's got more longevity and all that sort of thing. So he was fucking talking to me loads about it, and I would just sit there just going, yeah, I think that's the good. I think you're right, Dad. Yeah, that is right. So everything he said, I was just like, yeah, I agree with that. That's a great point. Yeah, really good point. I was going to say the same thing. So he would do all that, and then eventually we went down to this. I remember we drove down to this weird sort of shit shop that was like an office, like they just knocked up in an office with AstroTurf floory carpet in it. I remember it was weird. And they had in the back room, they had an Atari ST set up with just a flat screen on it, just with their, I don't know what the fuck it was, like just their version of Windows or Workbench, or their little Windows-based operating system. Then, right, one of the greatest moments in my life to date, I glanced over like this, and I saw an Amiga 500 with a 500 kilobyte memory upgrade in it, which I didn't at the time, but then it would have had to have been, a second hard drive made by, can't remember, but it was the best third party one. It was slim as fuck, and it was like, oh god, like it wasn't bulky like computing parts that I'd seen before. It was slim. It was like it'd been shaved down. It was fucking incredible. And on the screen, on this big monitor, not a TV, it was an Amiga monitor, was playing the demo of, are you ready, boys? Shadow of the Beast by Psygnosis of Liverpool, right? And the parallax scrolling on that, and the colours and the music by Dave, what's his name? The graphics, the coding by Dave Jones, I think he made it for Psygnosis. The way the parallax moved like that fucking nailed my young mind. I could not... I really felt that I was viewing actual magic, and this feeling went through me, like I am so in awe of this fucking thing in front of me. I looked at my dad. I think he knew then. I think he was like, right, he knew then. And then I remember we're talking to the guy, and then my dad was like, oh yeah, how does this come then? Do you buy the computer and the software? And the guy said, yeah, we got this thing called the Batman pack. And I had well, I won't spill the beans on this, but I was somehow involved in the Batman film when I was younger. Right, we won't get into it, but anyway, I saw that, and my dad saw that, and I think we were both like, yeah, we're getting that. So we bought this he bought this Batman pack thing. I remember it cost him like 350 quid, which back then was fucking a fair bit of wedge, right? It's quite a lot of money now, right? That was a lot of money. So he bought this thing, and he obviously couldn't afford a monitor for it, so he just plugged it into a TV. Got it home, plugged this thing in. Fucking yeah, that was it really. From there to like I was about 14. Oh my god, that thing was incredible. The game Batman as well was brilliant, but it was too hard. The one that I really liked from that pack was the New Zealand story one, which turns out was a Japanese game, really nuts, and it was by Taito, I think, the company, and Ocean Software had financed it in the West. Fuck me, man. Incredible. Then they had these other games. They had a Ghostbusters. There on that screen, you've got the Hollywood collection. I don't believe I got that one. I think we just had Batman, and it was a little weird box as well. Batman and the Flight Simulator, which was good, and then New Zealand Story, and then Workbench, and then right once I'd got over the fact that you could play games on this thing, and it was incredible. I then loaded up Deluxe Paint 2, I think, that came with this pack, and there, my friends, that meshed with all that Games Workshop painting stuff I was doing, and I was like, yeah, the fuck. Anyway, then I went to school, right, and I was in school. I was still in junior school then. So in England, you go to school from 6 till 10, I think, 11. Then from 11 to 18 you go to secondary school, and then secondary school is broken up into 11 to 16 and 16 to 18 if you want to continue, right? So I was still in junior school when I got this thing. When I got to secondary school, all of a sudden it turns out that like loads of the young lads who were also like 11, their dads had bought these things. It seemed to be like an absolute hype in England, and it turns out, looking back, this thing was like a fucking mega machine throughout Europe. And what happens is when you get a craze in Europe that spans countries, and then the young, smart, intelligent European guys get their hands on it, the creative geniuses, and it was the first time they'd been given this tool that could do everything. It could do music, it could do graphics, programming challenges. It was technologically right on the fucking cutting edge. When they got their hands on this thing, they went totally fucking berserk. The whole scene in Europe was the apex of technology, art, design, music, edginess, rebellion, anarchy, and then so what happened was all these companies would start making games, and then there would be an arms race to hack the games quickly, like literally the day they fucking came out, and then upload them to bulletin boards, which was this sort of pre-internet system. It was the internet, but it was like, you know, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but you'd upload to a bulletin board, and then someone in your local area would download it, and then you would use Xcopy. Big up the Xcopy crew. Anyone who's an Xcopy crew guy, stick fucking F in the chat or whatever. Yeah. You would Xcopy Pro 2 or Xcopy Pro 3 to make sure you delete or get rid of all the bad sectors. A lot of these games, right, they'd take off the copy protection, they'd make it X-copyable. Then they would also put a cracktro, an intro at the start of these games, which was like a graphical music demo showing the logo of the crew, the team who'd hacked these games. And then that in itself spawned what became known as the demo scene, right? And it was watching those little demos at the start of the games that for me became better than the games themselves. The games themselves, I stopped being interested in them as soon as I saw these demos at the start of the games. The thing that fucking knackered my mind was the scrolly text. This text that could just like go like over a screen, and then after a while they became more and more like really nuts the way it would move around. I'll get rid of this Batman pack so you can see my beautiful face. The scrolly text and the star screens. I always thought, how the fuck are they making this, and how can I learn how to make this? So I just got really into it, and I learned programming, and I got, first of all, I learned Amos, and then I read every issue of Amiga Shopper magazine, and then I started downloading the Grapevine magazine. Not downloading, getting Grapevine magazine on. I used to buy stuff on mail order from public domain demo shops advertised in magazines, and then I taught myself how to program, and that was C++ back then, was it? No, it wasn't. No, it weren't. Tell the fucking lie. ASM, Amiga Assembler, 68K. So I learned 68K. I wasn't very good at it. I was more into like making graphics and music, and then I hooked up with the demo scene, and that's when I learned trackers. Audio trackers. That was sound tracker, noise tracker. Sort of taught myself that, and then I started giving music and logos and demos to logos, graphics, sprites, and music mods that I'd made to a couple of local demo crews in the local area, and they put them on a few crack games. Man, that was a fucking time. The amount you learn, and I was only like 12 years old by this point. Thinking back, fucking hell, all the young kids nowadays are thick as shit, aren't they? Like, fucking the stuff we were doing back then as little boys, tight, like young as fuck boys on computers. It just shows you like the capacity that you have to be able to learn stuff at a young age. If you just don't have distractions and you don't have anything else going on, you can throw yourself into stuff even as a very young boy and learn incredible things. So that was that really. I did play a few games for a bit, and then around sort of 93. I mean, I was getting older then, I was 14, right? Around 93, the whole Amiga, the Amiga died, right? Commodore, the company, went bankrupt, I believe, and then they fucked up the release. Like, they had the Amiga 500, and they released the 500 Plus. That was a bit of a disaster because it wasn't compatible with other software in the 500. Then they released the 600, I don't even know why. and that was like a sort of a cool cut down version of the 500 without a number pad. Who buys fucking shit without number pads? Anyway, it just sort of died, and I lost a bit of interest in it, really, because the demo scene went a bit odd, and I was getting a bit older, and I was, I had other interests and shit, and I got into riding mountain bikes, and it was all that. Then I was into like making techno, and I was into like, you know what I mean? I wasn't just into the computer. I used to use the Amiga to sequence stuff on a Roland MC303 I had, not TB303, an MC303, like the groove box thing. But by then I was into I was trying to get around on decks and DJing and all that sort of thing as well, right? So the Amiga started gathering dust a little bit. I think my dad noticed that, and then he decided, in his infinite wisdom, to sell the fucking Amiga. By that point, home life was never really... Anyway, we won't get into that, but there wasn't really much of a sort of place to really be doing stuff as well. And then my dad bought a PC because he was running his own business at that point, I believe, and he wanted a computer to be able to actually use for work and business and stuff. And he was coming and going a fair bit, so he bought this fucking thing. Look at this on the screen. He bought that. He bought a Packard Bell. I think it's like this exact model, or like a variation of this exact model. A Packard fucking Bell multimedia computer with speakers that screw onto the side of the monitors, as you can see here, right? I remember I spent hours with this thing. The monitor was, you can see that the rounded edge there on the monitor, all right? And then it used to sit on this, I don't even know what you would call them. It's not a desktop, is it? It's like a tabletop computer. I don't fucking know. I hated it, and I liked it at the same time, but it was so shit compared to an Amiga, right? It was so crap compared to an Amiga in every sense. It wasn't as fast, it wasn't as great to use. You couldn't just shove a disc in it and go and it would load, right? There was no flashing lights on it. It didn't feel like when you had the Amiga, when you have an Amiga, you feel like Case, right? You feel like the character Case from Neuromancer. You feel like you've got his fucking deck that he jacks into the Matrix with, because the Amiga was just like a wedge, wasn't it? And you just carry it around. You carry it around under your arm, right? This thing came in multiple parts. The mouse was shit. The keyboard I thought was shit, but actually probably they're fashionable now, those keyboards, and I've got a mechanical keyboard, quite good. The operating system was Windows 3.1. Oh God, like, what can you do with it? Fuck all, man. Unless you're running a business, you do nothing with these things. You had a basic version of Word, a basic version of Excel, and it was shit, man. Right? It was rubbish. Oh, Lightspeed. Sorry, I didn't say hello to you, Lightspeed. First computer was the Atari 2600. Yeah, that was an early Atari, wasn't it? Yeah. Did you ever have the ST, mate, or the STE and all that sort of thing? Anyway, so I had this, right, and I didn't really do much with it, because in terms of like games, there were no games, there was no like demo scene in it compared to the Amiga. There was no. It wasn't like a hotbed of art, you know. It was just a fucking PC, and that was like my first go with a Windows computer. Was boring and weird. And I tell you what, right, the games that were made for it were so like culturally nothing to do with me. It was painful and odd, and I felt like I had to almost like adopt a different personality to enjoy them. So the games on the Amiga, a lot of them were made in the UK, and a lot of them were made in Europe, right? Or they were ports from Japan. So the ones that were made in the UK, obviously they worked fine with my young mind. The ones from Europe seemed fucking cool and stylish and were good. The ones from Japan were just so bizarrely weird, you just found yourself not understanding them at all anyway, and it was funny, right? And you had to almost like suspend your version of reality to really have any fucking idea of figure out what the fuck was going on. And you were like, hang on a minute, they must have been on mushrooms when they made this, right? But the ones on this, the Windows games. Now, if I've got any American, I know I've got a lot of American viewers here, so don't take this as any slight, lads, right? But they were very Americana, right? They were like the LucasArts games and all that sort of thing, right? Now I did enjoy Monkey Island, right? But even Monkey Island felt weird to me. I think I was sold the idea of Monkey Island by Amiga Format magazine. And then when I actually played it, I was like, ugh. Yeah, it was just too hard. It was, I'll tell you what, right? It was no fucking Xenon 2 Mega Blast. It was no Syndicate. It was no Lemmings, right? It was no Magic Pockets, yeah? None of the Bitmaps Brothers stuff. None of the Psygnosis stuff, right? None of that. Dio's ridden 100 miles yesterday, yeah? My CP saw so badly. Your CP? What's your CP? Your cock pussy. What thermal paste should I use? I don't know. I don't know what thermal paste. Any of them. They're all the same, aren't they? We'll get to PC building later, man. This is just a fucking warm up. I'm going to go all night on this. So yeah, I just found the games a bit weird, and they didn't really appeal to me. Like, I can imagine why they would appeal to CPU then, mate. CPU. Yeah, they just didn't mesh with me, and then that was it. I'd sort of fallen out of love with computers, and then by then I was fucking all over the place when by then I was like 15. I'll tell you what, the only good thing I did with this Packard Bell, the only good thing was, and I can say this now, but again, feel free to cancel me on this one. I used to manufacture fake IDs on this for myself and all my mates at school, and I used to charge money for them. So I was making illegal money by an illegal activity on this, and I got National Union of Students cards off my mate's older brother. So being in the National Union of Students, you'd have to be automatically 18 to get into university, right? I copied them exactly on Coral Draw on this thing, which was so shit compared to D-Paint. And then I used a Hewlett-Packard DeskJet 550C computer to print them. And then my mate had a laminating machine he used to use at work. So then I used to go down there with loads of them and laminate them with a photograph like laid on top of them. It was I mean, I reckon a lot of these were given out, were sold, and then people went down the pub with them. The people behind the bar would look at them and just out of sympathy or just pure amusement would serve anyone who was presenting this to them. But yeah, I was an absolute crime kingpin there, mate. So yeah, cancel me that one. So yeah, that was that really. This thing was fucking annoying, and I think my dad hated it. I don't even know. I don't think he even used it that much because he weren't really there much after that. Yeah, so fucking annoying. Then after that, I went to university and I bought off my housemate, who I had a hate relationship with, an Amiga A1200, which was good, and then I used Pro Tracker 3.11 on that a lot, and I actually made some techno on that, which I've still got the mods for, and that was the beginning of my actual move into piano making, fucking slamming beats, you know what I mean? From there, I then, around the year 2000, I built my first PC, and that's what we're going to get into now, right? So my first PC I ever bought was an AMD Athlon CPU on an Asus motherboard with some RAM, some memory, I don't fucking remember, right? And I got it from the computer shop that is next to that giant fucking pub on West Street in Sheffield. If any of you know, I can't fucking remember the name of it. What's it called? Yeah, an AMD Athlon, right? And I bought that purely to make music on. Then I went home and I was like, hang on a minute, I don't have any internet connection here. So I then went down to Red Tape Studios in Sheffield, which I also believe is still there. And I walked into Red Tape Studios by myself. This is what it used to be like back in the early 2000s, the late 90s. You could actually do shit, right? So I waltzed down into Red Tape Studios and said, hey, is anyone in here who uses computers to make music, like electronic music? And they went, oh, is anyone using... Oh yeah, Chris is. So I went and spoke to Chris about it. I was like, Chris, man, I ain't got any software. How do I get software for a computer? And he goes, what sort of music are you making? And I went, oh, I want to make techno, and I like stuff like Aphex, Auteca, that sort of thing. He was like, okay. Have you made anything before? And I've made stuff on an Amiga. And he went, all right, do you have any of your music? So I played him a tape, recorded a tape cassette of it, and he was like, all right, that's good then. I was just seeing if you actually could do it or not, because we don't usually do this, but here's a CD. And he gave me this CD, right? I took it home, and it was just fucking rammed with cracked software, right? Logic 5.1, Acid, an early version of Reason, Rebirth, I believe, was on there. Oh, fucking hell, man. It all sort of, Logic 5.1 with that, what do you call it, that ES1 synth on it. Fucking hell, man. That was brilliant. And I loaded that up and I just sat there for 2 years by myself. Every night, just plugging away at this. But still wasn't online by that point. And then I think at the end of that time, I was living in this flat, right? Living in the time at the end of that flat, I decided to get online, upload some music I've made. It went pretty well. Blah blah blah. Discovered a few drum and bass forums, got into all that sort of shit. So that was it really. And then I was fucking flying. But weirdly, I was more productive in the 2 years I was offline. Then, like the thought of being offline for 2 years now is mad, isn't it? But like, I was offline for 2 years, just plugging away, making music. I sort of discovered how to do it all by myself. When I got online, I thought, hang on, am I good enough here? It was like if people online know more than that. It's just if you plug away for 2 years, you can do it, right? So anyway, that was good. Then eventually I bought a Sony laptop, which was fucking rubbish, man. It was shit. It was so slow, and like the fan broke in it, so I had to point a fan at the back of it to make it actually work. I sold my desktop computer, moved to Japan, had that Sony laptop for a bit. Then I sold that Sony laptop and bought I used to buy and recondition IBM ThinkPads, IBM ThinkPad T42, IBM ThinkPad T43, because I was always moving around in Japan. I didn't want to buy a desktop. Then eventually in Japan I bought a desktop, complete one, because I couldn't be fucked building one for myself back then. And then I started upgrading it, all right? And that's that, all right? Then I moved to Australia and had to sell my old rig. And now we're going to talk about the rig that I've got here in exquisite detail, all right? So I know this has been quite boring tonight, but anyway, whatever, I'll get out of the way, yeah? I know you guys like fucking detail about shit. So yeah, the computer I've got now, right, is the following, all right? And I've written this list down. It is an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. So it's the one that you can actually overclock. With that particular component, that CPU, I use the CPU fan that comes with it. I've had no fucking issues at all, right? It must be known that I do not play games on this thing, all right? In more than one way. I don't play games and I'm not messing about with anything I make. I just use this for video, audio, making shit, trading software, running the CRM software of a broker, running a lot of bespoke software tools that I have to use for work via the like stuff that I can't tell you about that you would use in a broker, all right? So quite heavy sort of liquidity flow to all that sort of shit, which I could probably talk about in another video. So in terms of, so I don't use any games for this at all. Therefore, I don't really know how much stress I'm actually putting on this thing to be able to say it's fantastic and doesn't slow down. But for my usage, it doesn't fucking slow down. All right. So this is an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. The reason I bought that is because it was like it was about $500 fucking dollars, and it was like I want to future-proof myself, but I don't want to go absolutely berserk. And I thought, right, fuck it, I'm going to get the Ultegra of CPUs. I was umming and ahhing for fucking that long about getting an Intel, but then I was worried that stuff like Premiere Pro and Blender wouldn't be able to utilize the AMD cores because they didn't have the drivers built for it. But it got to the point where late 2019 there were no issues with anyone not using AMD shit anymore for their software. You can select it all in there, it's all good. So I thought, fuck it, I'll get that. I got it, and I also got to plug it into an Asus Prime X570p motherboard, because the Asus motherboard I had back in the day on that other AMD rig that I got for making music with stolen software was fucking solid, yeah? They both come in really nice boxes, they're both really solid, and they went together really nicely, right? In terms of RAM, I got 32 gigabytes of RAM, 3200 megahertz RAM, so quick RAM. and I got Team T-Force RGB RAM, right? I wanted to get some other fancy shit, but they didn't have any, and the guy in the shop just went, just fucking get this, man, it's all the same shit. It's just, RAM's all the same thing, it's just all it's all the same circuit board with a different container around it. I was like, alright. What else did I get? The case I've got is a Corsair Carbide 275R case. Now, my review of that is I give that a 6 out of 10 because it's a bit plasticky. It's only like 120 Australian dollars, so it's pretty cheap, and it's got a nice glass window. But yeah, it's not the best. Theo Williamson. Anyone else know how to fix a loose Garmin Edge charging port? Do you mean the micro USB that goes into your Garmin? Is that what you mean? Is that what they use nowadays? The latest Garmin I've got is an 820. Because if that is your question, then the question really is there. Does anyone know how to fix a loose micro USB port? And I'm sure someone can help you because we're all fucking nerds here. All right, so that case is all right. That motherboard's good. All right, I've had no problems with it. It's hard to know what makes a good or a bad motherboard, really, unless you drive it right to the fucking edge and then make it blow up. Like, I don't understand people who can say this is a good or a bad motherboard. I don't know what makes a good one or a bad one unless they blow up. So the fact this thing hasn't blown up yet means it gets 5 stars from me, right? The RAM itself, the memory hasn't caused me a single issue. It looks fancy, right? It's all fucking glowing lights and shit, right? The CPU, I've never managed to even go anywhere near topping this computer out, right? And I do things like I run Premiere Pro, Ableton with a billion fucking instances of Serum and Zebra in it, all the plugs. I run streaming software, I run Word, I run Excel with, like, I'm not even joking, literally a million fucking lines in it. Nothing at all, and I can still watch 4K videos. It's absolutely nuts, right? Probably if I played any sort of recent game in it, I might like start getting, oh my god, I'm dropping frames, but I don't play games because I'm 40 fucking 1, right? Anyone who plays games over the age of 3 needs to be taken to a gulag and just, right? Yeah, but it's really good, right? And it's not even the top of the range one. So I did fall into that trap of when I was looking for components and shit. I started looking through PC Parts Picker, and I was going on Build a PC subreddit and all these different forums, and like I was going, oh fuck. I sort of fell into the Dura-Ace mindset a little bit of going, fuck, this one's like nearly the top of the range, but it's not quite the top. Is it good enough? And I'm thinking, like, if you're spending like, if you're getting anything even halfway up the range now of CPUs, they're going to be brutal unless you're doing something stupid with your computer. Like anything grown up you're doing with your computer, you're going to be fine with something like this for like the next 20 years, probably. I don't know. All right, what else have I got? My graphics card is hilarious. My graphics card is a 2014 Gigabyte GTX 970 G1 Gaming. Fucking come at me, cunt. Yeah? That thing is not going to get upgraded until I absolutely have to. It cost me an arm and a leg back in the day. I know there was this, like, what do you call it? All right, Altoona. I know there was this, sorry, I had a fucking earplug in my ear. I wear earplugs sometimes. There was this scandal, wasn't there, with with the GTX 970 G1 Gaming claiming it had 4 gig of VRAM, but it turns out that only 3.5 of it was usable. I know, and everyone lost the fucking plot over that. Whatever, right? This thing was fine. The only thing I will say about this graphics card, when I got it, it cost me like 45,000 yen or something really nuts. I bought it in Japan. And I plugged it into my computer thinking, oh my god, I'm going to be able to like render Toy Story in real time here. I couldn't render Toy Story in real time. It wasn't that quick. It made using graphics and stuff and doing 3D better, but it wasn't as like absolutely flawless as I thought it would be, and it wasn't as quick as I thought it would be. So I was a little bit, not disappointed, but there's a bit of a reality check there. I was like, I'm going to have to get like a Xeon fucking workstation or something to like really have completely free reign over a 3D bit of software like I wanted. Anyway, so it's still going good though, so fuck, who cares? I've got 2 monitors. Again, nothing special. 27-inch LG 1080p monitors. They've been totally fine. They're probably like, I don't know, for any monitor nerds, they're probably like, oh, they're shit, but I don't care. They show everything I need, and I don't really mind. And yeah, I don't play games with them, so I don't need it to be like super fast frame rate and all that shit. The only thing I will say is one of them's got a little dead pixel in it right in the middle, but I realise that can happen a lot on a monitor of any price, so whatevs. I know you can do an RMA on them and get them replaced, but I sort of can't be fucked, and I don't think they bother with one dead pixel. All right. What else have I got? I have got. Oh yeah, I did all the cabling inside. I wired it up nice because I'm a fucking gimp, and I made it look nice. That is a nice sort of. That's a very OCD exercise going through that, and it is enjoyable actually when you get it done. Building the PC itself was easy, and it was the first time I'd built anything. It was the first time I'd built a PC from scratch using brand new components of this price. So I wasn't really shitting myself because I fucking, I'm handy as fuck with all that shit. But like, I was thinking, there is potential here to be like throwing hundreds of dollars down the drain here if I just slip a bit. So I was being a bit careful, but it was easy. Putting the CPU fan on top of the CPU though was like, fucking hell, yeah. You have to lever that down a bit more than you think you should be doing on something so delicate and expensive. Yeah. Let's talk about this fucking thing here, right? This here is my sound card, my external sound card. I've always had external sound cards ever since I got the audiophile 2496 card with breakout box back in the days of my old AMD Athlon. Because the first time I got a proper sound card for a computer, there wasn't like a Creative Labs heap of shit. It was a revelation being able to plug your computer into a audio source, having it through monitors and stuff. Like, the sound is insane, right? Now I'm used to it, right? But the first time you plug a decent sort of transparent sound card through a decent set of monitors is fucking, and you load a synth through it and you get that the power and the purity of the sound is it's an experience. Yeah, it's a big one, boys. So that was a fucking one for me. That was cool. So I've always had a good sound card because I make audio, right? And I record mics in and shit. This is a Tascam US 2x2 sound card. Tascam is a Japanese company, and like a lot of Japanese things, the hardware is bloody good, but the software is really mad and not very good. The drivers have had endless issues with this, and it seems it's taken them like a fucking half a decade to update the drivers to make them not complete shit. This thing, obviously, ASIO drivers, what you use with these high-end sound cards, so they're already a bit of a pain in the ass because you can only, excuse me, I don't know, I think I've got corona. They're already a bit of a pain in the ass because you can only use one app at the same time. You can only use one application with it. You can't split the sound across a variety of apps like you can with MME or Direct Sound on a PC. So you've got to fiddle with it, and it forgets its settings, and sometimes it works with exactly the same settings as the other time that it doesn't fucking work. Sometimes you've got to turn it on in a certain order. You've got to learn all its little idiosyncrasies, and I think that in this day and age of 2020, you shouldn't be fucking learning idiosyncrasies of anything really in computing, because we've had fucking long enough to sort it out. Yeah, this thing is a pain in the arse. Honestly, if I had the chance again, I wouldn't have bought it. I'd have probably got a Focusrite Scarlett. All right, because I've heard that those drivers are way, way easier to use and way less temperamental. I had a similar issue with a router I had to buy, which is why I couldn't fucking live stream for a bit. I had this D-Link router, which D-Link's good, but I ended up having to get TP-Link because the hardware was good, but the software, it just wouldn't work with my modem. So anyway, that's that. This Tascam is a fucking pain in the ass. If you could see the little proprietary sort of interface they use to tell you how to route things and stuff, it's really basic. I used to have on the PC I had in Japan, it was a EMU 1616M sound card, which was fucking awesome and pro audio, right? EMU makes pro audio stuff. Their filters as you will know, in the samplers are literally the sound of Neuro drum and bass in the late 90s, early noughties. The microphone preamps in this 16M were so fucking good. And the whole thing was brilliant. You could drive it so loud as well. And the software, the routing was absolutely incredible. You could route like a million things into each other and like get feedback loops and monitor your own voice and like backwards through the speakers. And you could do like live room convolution reverb setups and stuff in the routing. You could set up your own like NY compression with the actual sound coming out of the speaker. Oh fuck, it was incredible. This Tascam thing, it just says, do you want to have FX on, yes or no? No, it's shit. Like, I do regret buying that, I have to say. All right, anyway, what else have I got? I've got a Shure SM57 mic, which is this thing. I've had it for fucking years. This thing has been with me through the good days and the dark days. Right, I've dropped it, I've fucking kicked it, it's had shit spit in it. They can't go wrong. They sound nice as well. I actually like these more for vocals than the SM58. Right, I know, controversial. Yeah. Plus, it makes me feel like Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet as well. All right. Speakers, then monitors. Right. Let's get some monitor talk going. These things are phenomenal. All right. They are phenomenal. They're Yamaha HS7s. Absolutely incredible. Built like a tank. I may even do like a review of it, a TDI. Let's analyze the shit out of these things. Fucking review. All right. Ash Beach, mate. How's it going? Yeah, you've missed a lot of this. We're 48 minutes in, man, but we're still going strong. All right. These things are fucking awesome. All right. Really good. The first time I like to test. I've got this test I do for monitors. Right, I do two things. I've got this reactor patch I made in Reactor. Right, I've got this reactor patch I made where it just plays a sine very low from 0 essentially up with a 24 decibel cutoff, and it goes all the way up, right, to about 200, and then it puts a res peak in. And then it goes all the way back down again. I've automated this, like just by holding a note down, you can make it do this through the envelope in the instrument I've built. It sticks a little res peak in it and goes all the way back down again. Then it goes slowly, and you can pause it with any key on the keyboard. So once you've got it resing like fuck, you can hold it. Then you can turn up the volume of your output until you can see where the speakers are just starting to fucking lose it, like you're almost breaking them. And then you can scroll further back down the sine, all right? And then once you've done that, you can really figure out where their sweet spot is and how good they handle low end and all that sort of thing. And then you can switch it to a square wave, do the same thing again. Switch it to a saw wave, do the same thing again. Switch it to a pulse width. All of that, you go through that, and like these things handle it so fucking nicely, and nearly shook my fucking windows out, all right? The other thing I like to do is I've got an array of very vicious snare drums that I just play. I've done them in Ableton, right? And I just play it through, and all I get is this like, and I just like to abuse my ears with it and just see how fucking rugged I can get them going. These things phenomenal, absolutely incredible. They're so accurate. You have to sort of, I don't know. It was quite humbling. They are so sharp and so accurate that you find yourself not being the engineer that you thought you were for a bit, until you take a step back and start to go in a bit more gently with your mixes and really sort of consider you can't be slapdash with your mixes with these things. They really reveal any sort of, they really reveal any little boy behavior, right? They're absolutely brilliant. The resolution's incredible as well. They're just phenomenal. I will be getting the matching HS8S for these things, which is the matching sub for these, but I can't get them in this room at the moment because it would be antisocial to do so. I can't even fucking properly play these things yet. Ash says, how much are they? 150 each. I don't know how much they are, mate. In fact, I will tell you. I mean, you could just Google this, right? 179 each by the looks of things. 179 each. Yeah. Is that right? HS7s? Yeah, 179 each. Yeah. Worth every fucking penny. Previous monitors I've had, just so you know, I'm not speaking shit, I've had Tano Reveal passives, which I ran through a Marantz amplifier, which was hilarious. They were still good though. I still did some fucking good mixes on them once you learn them. I had some Mackie HR824s, which were so hugely overpowered for the room they were in. It was berserk. I had them in Japan in a Japanese apartment. Can you even fucking believe that? I didn't have any neighbours around me the whole time that I was living in this absolute fucking mental place. Yamaha HS7s, man. HS7. Here we go. Yamaha HS7. Boom. There you go. Yamaha HS7. Powered monitor, so you don't need an amp, you just plug them in and turn them on. They were so overpowered for the room they were in. They were huge. They were really nice sounding. Then I had a little set of Genelecs. Can't remember which ones they were. They were really nice. I have to say, these Yamahas are better than all of them. They're not the best sounding. The Mackie HR 824s are the most impressive, but you don't want monitors to be impressive. You want monitors to be true and accurate, right? So these things will give you a better mix. It's harder to mix with these things, which is good, right? It's harder to get a good mix out of these, but if you can make something sound good in these Yamahas, then fucking hell, man, it will sound like heaven in whatever else you play it in. But if I wanted to, like, I think a lot of people, a lot of studios, they'll have one for show and one for blow, won't they? These monitors, they'll have their big Genelecs or their big Mackie things to like impress the clients when they come around to like play giant, accurate, like hard, sharp, monolithic sounding, cracking, like dry sound at the clients to impress them. Go, fuck, these guys make music sound great. But then when they're actually mixing it down, they're using NS7s or HS7s or whatever. You know what I mean? LiveStream, I'm not using any room treatment at all, mate. Nothing at all. Because I don't own this property. All right. The property that I will be buying at some point will have its own anechoic chamber levels of room treatment. Trust me, rude boy. All right. But yeah, good question, mate. Next thing that I've got then is my keyboard. This keyboard here. This is the first time I'd ever actually had a nice keyboard. Right. This is a Corsair K70 Mac 2. Brown, Cherry MX Brown. And as we've had this discussion before, anybody who's not using Cherry MX Brown is either some sort of show-off, all right, or is some sort of narcissist, or, I'm going to say it, is a child sex trafficker, all right? If you're using Cherry MX Browns, you're none of the above, okay? And you're safe, all right? You're safe. If you're using Cherry MX Reds, pedo. If you're using Cherry MX Blues, narcissistic, I don't know, what, like the sort of person who would like kick a cat down a street. Just awful behaviour, all right? But the Cherry MX Browns are lovely. They're smooth. They've got a nice action. We've been through this before, haven't we? They've got a sort of almost like a grainy trajectory with a little bit of a sort of a break at the bottom, right? Really lovely to use. And I'll tell you what, right? Corsair K70 is great because it's got this little roller wheel up the top here where you can control the volume of things really quickly. You can press, it's got little media buttons at the top, which I never thought I'd actually use, but you do. You can mute things. The keys are great. It's RGB as fuck, which is cool. Julian says he likes blue. Well, all right, Julian, but as long as you've been chemically castrated, you're free to use blues, because then you're no harm to the general public. But I really would, I'd be thinking long and hard about that. yeah, using this, I found that I got better at typing because, believe it or not, right, I'm shit at typing. My girlfriend, Dita Carlita, is a fucking phenomenal typist. I've never seen anything like it. She can just, I think, because I think, here's some sexist chat. You ready? Here's the daily sexist chat. I reckon women under the age of 30, who are now currently under the age of 30, who basically grew up on the internet doing like MySpace and shit and like slagging each other and saying, can't believe it. Like, Sarah looks shit today. I can't believe she's going out with that guy. She's only going out with him because he's got a full sleeve, right? And Sarah's a fucking bitch anyway, because she went down the rock club last night and she told me that she was emo, all right? But she's not bloody emo. She looks seen, yeah? And she keeps on saying she's not seen, but she is so seen, right? Look at her black and white stripy Chemical Romance shirt she's wearing, yeah? And that new lip ring she's got, that's not bloody emo, yeah? If anything, she's hardcore, right? What is she? So they spend their entire life, their entire formative years doing that into MySpace, while also sort of looking away from the screen and looking in the mirror a lot and sort of pouting. So they at the corner of their eye, they can see MSN Messenger talking to all the guys that fancy him on the scene who are in bands, and also slagging off Sarah because she's no longer emo, but she's actually seen. Plus they're looking at themselves like that and sort of doing that like down the top camera across the face eye thing that they all do. So they get really fucking good at typing. So these young women are brilliant at typing. Me, by comparison, I've always been looking directly at the screen, right? So I'm shit at typing. That's why. But since getting this keyboard, I've actually got better at typing. Much better at typing. Yeah. So there you go. This keyboard's fucking good. And if you haven't got a fancy keyboard, right, it is actually money well spent because it makes your entire computer experience more enjoyable. There you go. One thing I will say about this Corsair though, sometimes the drivers just fucking shit the bed, and all of a sudden your keyboard ain't working. What the fuck? Or the little roller wheel here, which tells you the volume, which brings up a little on-screen display of the volume. That just suddenly boom locks to full, and you can't actually adjust it. And then your media keys don't work, and then you have to either unplug the fucking keyboard and plug it back in again, or you have to restart the drivers. Bit of a pain in the arse. I have looked on forums; it is a thing apparently. So beware of that if you're thinking about copying what I'm buying. All right. Next thing, we're going to talk about this mouse. This is a Logitech mouse. I've always had Logitech mice. There's not much to say about it. It's nice. I like the feel of them. Logitech MX Anywhere 25. Wait for that one. I know. Quite a Starbucks style purchase. Let's get into Dell. Dell says, do you use trackpad? A trackpad of... I don't use a trackpad. No, I've had a go on a trackpad. I can't get my head around them. Do I use any meal replacements? No. If anything, I should be eating less than I should just be cutting out meals at the moment. Joylent, Huel, Aussie Lent, etc. No. Rice. We've been through this before. If you are thinking about doing meal replacements, don't. Just eat rice and jam. Okay? And drink endless cups of tea. Rice, jam, endless cups of tea. That's all you need to do. All right? Theo Williamson, what's the big attraction in PCs and tech? Honest question for somebody non-techie. That is a fucking good question, Theo. That is a fucking good question. As a young boy, it was an escape. As a young boy, it was access to a hidden world that I have spoken about in previous videos. Drug addiction was also that. Sorry, Dell. All right. It's an escape. It's creative, I think. Well, computing for me was it was like a dark art, a hidden art that I wanted to get into. It seemed magical. Like I say, when I saw Shadow of the Beast on that screen when I was young, I was like, how has this been made by a man? How have the same hands that knock up physical things that you can pick up and hold in your hands have made this magical thing that I can't touch, but I can see and I can know what it is behind the screen. How does it work? How have they made it that I can interact with it? And what's this magic of holding the joystick and be able to control? Like, it just seemed magical. So that was an early attraction to technology. It allows you to do things. It's a puzzle a lot of the time. I famously said back in the day that I enjoy getting viruses because it's a challenge to get rid of them. Like, I like it when I secretly like it when things go wrong with my computer, because I'm like, great, yeah, nice. I can put aside work for a bit and I've got another challenge to focus on, see how quickly I can get around it. And I always know there's an answer. You know, it's like that thing where people saying, if you can imagine it, someone's made porn of it. It's like, if it's gone wrong with your computer, it's someone else has had it go wrong with theirs before. Trust me, right? It's a tool for the mind, says Lightspeed. Yes, that is true. But there's also sort of real life applications of computing now. And computing's so vast now that it's involved in every aspect of life. For me, in my life, I use it as a creative outlet. I like to make things. This is done over a computer, isn't it? What we're doing now. I use it for work. You make money. You can see how you can build your own systems. There's no end to it because, you know, it's possible to hack anything. The hackability of computers is something that will never go away, no matter what barriers the manufacturers try and come up with. You can hack anything. Like, you can hack a Mac. You can crack software. It's a race, you know, to crack software. It always has been. There's a sort of naughty boyness to it all as well. Like, look at this here that a vendor's made. What can we do with it that they don't think that can be done with it? It's curiosity, creativity. Yeah, it's all that sort of thing, man. And you can commit crime with it. You can make money. You can design systems that make people's lives better. You can design systems that make people's lives a lot fucking worse. You know, man, it's endless, an endless world. Plus, there's something that, aside from all that as well, there's something sort of, I don't know, there's this sort of weird feeling that you get that when you bolt together a system that's been made by very, very clever guys, you feel like you've been invited into witnessing their genius firsthand. You're getting a really close look at them, and when you get something out of the box that's phenomenal. And I've said this about Dura-Ace before. When you get something that's really fucking well made out of the box, and you feel it and you look at it and you consider it, you're like, fuck, and you start to think about all the little design decisions that have gone into this, and you're looking at like a CPU, for example, and you Google how they work, like, shit, fuck. How has it got here? Because it's just a little bit of metal, isn't it? But it's just an arrangement of silicon and metal and flows of of light and electricity and stuff that in such a hyper refined way that allows it to operate and do this. It's astonishing. It's humbling. It's the same sort of feeling you get when you look at the universe and you go, fuck me, I'm tiny in this realm, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it's a great world. Anyway, let's crack on then. So, my next thing I'm talking about is, the other thing, before I say that, in terms of bang for buck, right? Building your own computer and going through that challenge of doing it, and then getting yourself a phenomenally fast rig that you've bought for a couple of $1,000 Aussie dollars, because that's all it costs, is the most bang for buck of anything you can buy nowadays. There's nothing else that gives you that opens the most doors for you, potentially, than buying a fast computer, or even a mid-range computer nowadays, and going online with it. Like, once you've got that, there's nothing stopping you from taking over the fucking world with that box there, right? You could design the next PayPal system. You could figure out protein folding. You could use the CPU to make the next Bitcoin iteration. You could work out an alternative to that. You could unite a group of people with connections on the internet over a software platform. You could register a company. You could. It's fucking nuts what you can do with a computer, right? Which, let me just have a side rant about this. That's what's always annoyed me about cunts who, and they're not all cunts who have them, but cunts who buy Macs, Apple Macintoshes, and say, oh yeah, what, a Mac's better, isn't it? Because it's just like, it's for creative people. Let's just analyse that little sentence there for a second, yeah? A Mac's for creative people, is it? Right? What do you think people are doing with Windows computers, and what software can you use that is only available on Mac that doesn't have a Windows version or isn't a port from Windows that is allowing people to create things? What specifically on an Apple Macintosh computer is solely the domain of Apple Mac that makes it so massively more creative than a Windows or a Linux-based computing system? Riddle me that one, cunts. There's no answer. It's just a mimetic thing that people say nowadays that drives me up the fucking wall. All right? Mac's not for creative people. I think when they say creative people, they mean fucking hipsters. All right? Yeah. Theo Wilson, it is more bang for buck than a 2020 disc gravel e-gravel bike with SRAM. Yes, it is, unfortunately, but only by a little bit. All right? Yeah. I mean, we could get into the minutiae of slagging off Apple, and I'm happy to do that, right? Because it's only 9 o'clock here. I could go until midnight. In fact, fuck it. Come on, let's do it. But yeah, we'll get through my list of parts first, so you lot can see what I approve of and what I fucking don't like. But yeah, that whole thing about that is just nuts, right? I think what it really means is that people who work in the media and go and sit in an office trying to look pretty or handsome whilst pissing about in Illustrator to make an advert for someone, like the way that other people think about them for having a silver computer with an Apple on the back of it. That's what they say about it's for creative people. I think that's what it is, right? Insecure nods, yeah. Now, if anyone's using an Apple Mac computer in this chat or in the cult or anyone, that's all good, right? That's all good because they're just computers, just like a Windows computer is just a computer. And there's nothing really that you can do on a Windows computer that you can't do on a Mac and vice versa, right? And getting there now, the Ubuntu Linux systems are fucking getting close. They're not as good yet, and they're not as plug and play, and there's a lot of stuff you can't use on them, but fucking hell, it's all the same thing, isn't it, really? Just use Google Docs for all your Google Drive for all your Excelling. It's the same fucking thing. Anyway, let's move on. The next thing I'm going to talk about that I've got, which I like, but is not perfect, is my Wacom Intuos Pro Medium pen tab. All right? And that is up here. Boom. That's that thing. All right? I bought this in 2014 from Bic Camera in Japan. I bought it in a shop, walked into a shop and bought it. All right? That's the fucker. This thing has made a lot of art on it, a lot of work, and I've never bought a new set of nibs yet, so that's good. It is good, but like a lot of Japanese stuff, it's a bit iffy in usage because the software is weird and shit. Sometimes when you're using it, all of a sudden a line will go doing across the screen because the driver has gone tits up. Cowpole intro, was that a sarcastic comment? There's nothing more or less user friendly than any computer, really. I don't think. It's just about learning a way of working, I reckon. Sorry if you weren't being sarcastic there. Anyway, yeah, that Intuos Pro thing is good, but it's iffy, and sometimes the drivers don't work, and sometimes when you set up, so you've got this control panel where you can whenever a certain software is being used by it, you can set certain behaviors for that particular software with the pad. So if you're using Photoshop, for example, you can say, right, well, I want this hotkey on it to do that in Photoshop. Then if I switch to Premiere Pro, whatever, I want that hotkey to then have this operation in Premiere Pro. That doesn't fucking work half the time. And they keep updating the drivers. The drivers are iffy. But in terms of just using it daily, when it's working, it's fucking good and it's smooth and it felt pretty luxurious. The build quality is a bit funny. Like if you grab it and twist it, it sort of goes grr, grr, grr. So it's not the best fucking build quality, but it's good for what it is and it's good for the price and it's sort of the industry standard. And I reckon they're all right, them things. The battery lasts a fair amount of time. The way that you have to use their own bespoke USB based transmission device things, I don't know, they could just do it Bluetooth out of the box, but whatever, it's all good. So that Intros Pro thing's all right. Next thing then, Sennheiser HD 650 headphones. I spoke to you about them before. They're fucking excellent. Windows 10 I use, all right. Calpol, I'll get into that in a minute, and I'm actually going to do another live stream at some point about all of the technology I use at work, all the tech I use at work, and all the things I do at work, and also a sort of insight into how a broker actually works and what my daily job at a broker looks like, and also all the systems we use at work and how the money flows and how things actually do operate there. And I think that part of that will be me slagging off how bespoke stuff that's not used by the masses for behind closed doors of businesses, like back end stuff for businesses, is often very fucking shit and annoying as fuck to use. All right, that's me venting. All right, because I know tomorrow morning I'll go back into it. If anyone's used a CRM system for a broker, they're generally all complete crap because they're not made for Sally who works in McDonald's to be able to use easily. Right, they're made by a small team of nerds who think like autistic nerds, who then just assume everyone has to learn their way of doing it and that their way or the highway. But then when you're trying to search the name of someone and it doesn't come up unless you've set what server they're on already, but there's no way of knowing what fucking server they're on already because you don't know because their name's Jack Smith doesn't mean they're not based in Japan, and there's no way to know what fucking server they are unless you go into their client. Oh, fucking cunts. Anyway, all that shit. So I do agree with there, mate, Calpol. Anyway, Windows 10 I use, and I think it's all right. I did use Ubuntu and Linux Mint and Linux Arch Linux for quite a while, and I was a little bit of not a fanboy, but I was sort of adamant I was going to get it working, but I went up. It got to the sort of 8-month point, right? And I was like, fuck, I haven't actually managed to it became like your daily thing that you do with your computer instead of like doing, so when you've done all your work and you want to do something creative, you'll open up your creative software and you'll have a crack on it. Because your operating system is essentially invisible, right? When you're using Ubuntu and all that Linux stuff, your sort of daily stuff that you might do on your computer becomes you just fiddling with the fucking operating system and trying to work through the challenges of getting it to speak to your Wacom pen tablet without running some like virtualized sandbox to run Windows in it and then get the driver to speak through that to fucking. It just like it's sort of the opposite of a Mac. Like it just doesn't work. If they can sort all that out and if they can get it running like Windows does, and I don't see why they fucking can't, it would be brilliant. And for a very simple computing experience where you don't want to use any third-party software and you don't want to be using industry standards of stuff, it's great, right? But it's just not. Like, how are you going to get Ableton fucking running on it? How are you going to get Excel running on it? How are you going to get MetaTrader 4 running on it? Like stuff like that. just why bother? Just fucking put Windows on and actually spend the time that you have with your computer in your life, which it turns out isn't actually that long after all, actually doing stuff that is working, and sort of forget about the fantasy of sticking it to the man and not using Windows. You know, that's what I reckon at the moment. But if they can get it to work, fucking cool, I'll be on it. Red Trooper, right, mate? How's it going? Now then, let's talk about the webcam. The webcam itself, this camera here, right? You'll know that when I used to do these in Japan, my webcam was fucking rubbish. It was a Logitech something, right? Really shit. This thing's way better, isn't it? But that is actually my Android phone, all right? I spent money on an app. I bought an app. I spent 16 Australian dollars and 99 Australian cents on IVCam software, thinking that I'll buy this because I've been using it a lot and $16 is not really much. I was like, fuck it, let's get it. Got it, plugged it in, and I thought, right, I'll try and use it over Wi-Fi. Use it over Wi-Fi, it was like, oh, fuck's sake. So I thought, I know, I'll just plug it in, I'll wire it in, I'll wire the phone into the computer, USB, and just run it. Did that, didn't work. I was like, oh, fuck's sake, man. How are we going to get this working then? But secretly, I was thinking, yes, fucking challenge, cunt. Right? So then I went on the FAQs on the IV Cam website, figured out that you need to get the drivers, you need to tell Windows that the Android device you've got plugged in can actually transmit data constantly through the USB. Now there is an option whenever you plug an Android phone in to tell it whether you want it to be just charging or do you want a file transfer. But even when you tell it to do file transfer, that isn't actually telling it to send data constantly, right? I don't know why it doesn't have that as standard. Maybe it's some sort of security thing. So what you have to do is you have to go to the manufacturer's website of your phone, which in my case is a Xiaomi Poco phone. Fucking good they are as well, right? Download the drivers to update the USB, update the drivers for the phone in the computer. So you do that, but it's all in Chinese. So you have to translate from Chinese into English to figure it out. And then you do it, and there's a lot of buggering about. You have to restart your computer in test mode, which is a little hack you have to do in the control panel. Restart into test mode, which means that it allows, I can't even fucking remember what it was, but you have to restart your computer in test mode to do it. Once you've done that, then you can install the drivers because, oh yeah, that's right, because if you don't run it in test mode, Windows will automatically block you running any non-authorized drivers, even if you tell it it's okay. So you have to do that. I mean, I realise this is letting bloody Emperor Mao into my life, but fuck it, whatever, you know. Can't beat him, can you? And then you do that, and then you get it set up, and then eventually you plug it in, and then bam, your fucking webcam's on, and everyone's well happy. So if you're willing to do that, this IV Cam software in an Android phone, $16 for a 4K. I'm not running this, I'm not streaming in 4K, but it has the ability to do 4K, right, out of a phone. $16 for a phone you've already got in your pocket. So why would you spend loads of money on a 4K camera that you're going to bin and looks a bit gash? Yeah. So there you go. All right. Things that have, here we go then. Things that have fucked up with this computer so far. One, I had an issue where every time I would accidentally nudge my knee into the front of the desktop, it would turn off. And I was wondering what the fuck it was. Took it apart. Turns out it was one of the cord from the on button to the motherboard was not quite properly fucking seated. So I did that. That took me ages to figure out. Another thing which took me fucking ages to figure out, and it actually ended up in me having to buy something new, was a weird one. I was listening to some music once, and then every so often the audio would go, they would just carry on. And I thought, oh, is that like, because I was on YouTube and I was watching it, right? I thought, oh, is my internet slowing down? Have I got some, because I'm in Australia, right? So, you know, it's always doing that. So I didn't think about it for much. Then it started happening when I was using a synthesizer in Ableton. And I was like, yo, that is nothing to do with the internet. So then I looked around and I tried to figure it out. I initially thought it was like my audio drivers. I thought it was this fucking Tascam thing going wrong again. But then I did a lot of process of elimination, disabled my Tascam sound card and ran through the Realtek sound card that I've got in my computer. Kept on doing it. I was like, all right, what's this then? So then I figured out there's actually a latency issue. Now, if any of you have been involved in latency issues with your computer, you know there's an entire scene on the internet of lads suffering from latency issues and all that sort of thing. So I had to join that crew and then go down the depressing route of trying to figure out what it was. Now, when you have something that's not, I know I said it before that, if you can think of it and it's happened to your computer, it's probably happened to someone else's computer. In this case, it was true. However, I won't bore you with the minutiae of how I figured it out, but here's what was fucking causing it. A Windows 10 security update, right? Get this, had sent the ndis.sys driver file, which handles all networking on your computer. It had sent it tits up for some fucking reason. So then the ndis.sys file couldn't speak to my Realtek Wi-Fi adapter that I had in the back of my computer, because my computer was too far away from the wired port to run a cable all the way down the fucking house, right? So then I had to try and update the Realtek drivers. I had to try and run back the Realtek drivers. I had to try and run back the security update. However, it turns out some security updates in Windows, you can't fucking roll them back. I would have had to reinstall my entire operating system. Then I was thinking, well, I'm not going to do that, because then they're just going to auto update anyway, and I'll have to install it anyway, and it'd be fucked. The only thing that would fix it, and I'm adamant now that Microsoft owes me money, even though this copy of Windows I haven't. Hang on a minute. Well, Microsoft owes me money, right? It's because the only thing that fucking fixed this was me going out to the local computer shop and buying a brand new $17 TP-Link wireless internet adapter, shoving it at the back of my computer and chucking that Realtek one in the bin. That was the only fucking thing that fixed it. So I had to admit defeat then because of this and buy some new hardware. That was really upsetting, even though it cost me $17. That affected me deeply. I was like, I can't win this. It was an unwinnable war. I felt like in terms of the money, it was nothing, but the principle of it was very painful, and I'm still suffering from that. So that was a real bastard that happened to me on that computer. And I then looked into driver update issues with Microsoft, and apparently they've caused all sorts of shit over the years. So you update your computer fucking carefully, lads, and always make little, system restore points when you do it. Yeah, that was one thing that's fucked up. Other thing I told you about, this Corsair keyboard sometimes goes a bit tits up, but it hasn't done it recently. Yeah, but that's really it. Apart from that, it's been absolutely rock solid. It's quiet as well. And yeah, so that's that really. What time is it? I've been doing this an hour and a half. All right, so I'm going to go now because I need to go and chill because I think I've got coronavirus. But we'll carry on the fucking chat, I don't know, tomorrow night or something. We'll get into some other stuff. I've got some other little topics I've got lined up. I am working through the suggestions that were made before, but if you can suggest anything you want to talk about, let me know and we'll get into it, yeah? Someone's open to suggestion. What are you saying in the chat? UK said they would be rid of Huawei, is that how you say it? Huawei the lads, hardware in 2027 or something, told Fiasco. I've got to look into that. I haven't even looked into that. Do I own anything by them? I do. I own a wireless internet thing by them, which was a bit shit. But that wasn't shit because of them. It was shit because the Australian internet's crap. Yeah. All right. Okay, lads, well, I'm going to shoot, yeah? That was basically me just listing all the things that I've bought and expecting you to give me... expect you to tell me I'm great for having bought it. How modern of me. All right. See you tomorrow, maybe? All right.